Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and of course it is Science Fiction Saturday once more. And this time around, it's recent acquisitions that I've picked up from Umbrella Entertainment that I'm reviewing, because I've actually bothered to watch the movies. The first one is from the 4K set that Umbrella presented me with, which included a t-shirt. It was all in the last video. We're going to be doing Salute to the Jugger with Rutger Hauer, Joan Chen, Vincent D'Onofrio. Interesting sports ball-related post-apocalyptic movie. And then we're going with the favourite movie of mine. By the way, here's the set. There's the box set, Salute of the Jugger, sorry. And from Full Moon Frightbox Volume 2, the Charles Band Frightbox stuff, we're doing my favourite movie from that set, Sorority Babes at the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. I'm getting the titles wrong. Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama. And they're both fun in their own ways. I've got things to say about both of them. So I probably should get started. I'm not going to do the unboxing experience of both videos because I've done that before and I don't want to Groundhog Day the video. But there is the 4K Ultra HD version of it, which I watched today. And the cool thing about it is that the movie's been recolor graded by the original cinematographer. And to be honest with you, it looks pretty good. The HDR works really well. And I've never seen the movie this clear because I've only ever seen it in the 1980s on VHS. So the version of it I watched on this one, and by the way, there's the back cover. It looks great. Never seen it this good. In fact, it was more immersive for me to watch it with much, much better original material than back when I watched it on VHS. So we'll talk about the Salute of the Jugger first, because it's the Australian one. It was filmed in South Australia, mostly at Coober Pedy, up in the kind of mid-section of South Australia, which is the biggest opal mining area in the world. And it's an entire town that's pretty much underground. They dug out the mines to get the opals and found out it was good accommodation because it's much cooler down there than being up in the desert and frying eggs on spades and things like that. Coober Pedy's like that. It's also got a drive-in theatre. So, very cool town. They filmed other movies there, Pitch Black amongst them, a whole bunch of other films because it's got a very different desert kind of landscape. So the movie's basically about a game called Jugger, which in this post-apocalyptic world where the past is pretty much forgotten and the 20th century advances, and they obviously assume that the apocalypse happened sometime in the early 21st. People have forgotten it, and people on the surface of the earth are living a hand-to-mouth agrarian existence. Some people are starving, some people aren't. Everybody's got scars. Nobody gets away without being scarred in this world. There is a game called Jugger, where wandering Jugger teams travel into little towns and fight in this game, and it's more gladiatorial contest than really sport against the local team. And gambling is done. There's a party afterwards, and everybody gets drunk and gets laid. It's a whole thing whenever a Jugger team comes to town. But the downside of it is the game's incredibly brutal and people do die. And a Jugger team, led by a guy called Sullo, played by Rutger Hauer, come into a village and do the game. Now, the point of the game is for the Swift, the sneaky little fast person on the team, to grab the ball, which is actually a dog skull, and spike it onto a spike at the far end of the other team's field. Nobody knows how the game started. Nobody knows why it's a dog skull. It's just part of the history of this thing. And successful Jugger teams collect dog skulls, which have glyphs written on them telling how they won them. So Solo and his team, which includes some interesting character actors. You've got Delroy Lindo playing Mabulu, who's one of the defender characters in the game, and Vincent D'Onofrio as Gar, who has this big chain that he wheels around, and the point of the character and the player with the chain is to protect the Swift while the Swift carries the skull to the spike at the other end of the field. And the Swift are the only members of the team and the only players who can touch the skull. There's all these rules, and in fact there's a rule booklet that comes with the collector's edition of the Salute of the Jugger, which tells you all the rules and the good strategies for it. Created by the director of the film, David Webb Peoples. There's a whole thing there, and people actually play it in a much less violent version in Europe, and have done since 1989 when the movie came out. It's a whole thing. Not my kind of thing, but it's a whole thing. Salo and his team come to this village, and there's a young woman called Kidda, played by Joan Chen, who wants to be the Swift in the team. And she's in the local team. She actually she deliberately cripples the Swift in Salo's team so that she can become the Swift in Salo's team, with the possibility of going to the city and becoming a player of Jugger for the city. And that's where people's ambitions are, because in the 9 cities that exist in this world, that's where comfort is. That's where you can live a reasonable life. But the only entrance to that comfortable life, where they have things like silk and where people exist who don't have scars on them, is to be a very successful Jugger player and to play it for one of the cities. It's the only way poor people can become wealthy and privileged. And there are a lot of parallels between professional sport as it exists in our world and professional sport as it exists in the world of the Jugger. That's a parallel that does not elude me one tiny bit. Now, Salo knows about this stuff because he was in the city, and he was a successful Jugger player in the city leagues. But he slept with the wrong woman. And Lord Vile, the king of one of the cities, threw him out. Lord Vile in this place is played by Hugh Keys-Byrne, the Australian actor who was born English but he was Australian, who was in Mad Max and The Man from Hong Kong, a whole bunch of other Australian films, and he's playing against type in this, playing the aristocratic Lord Vile. He's kind of okay in it, but he's not great. There's a bit of miscasting in this. Kidda eventually bonds with the team. Her and Guard try to bonk, but because it's part of the celebration after a game, both of them are so ripped up and bruised and battered and torn by the game that they can't successfully complete the deal. And Salo walks in on them and says, you can't have 2 players bonking after a game. It's like wounds rubbing against wounds. So they learned that lesson. Eventually, the team gets to the city and the movie plays out, interestingly, after that. And in the city, they meet an ex-friend of Salo's, a guy called Gonzo, played by Max Fairchild, a great big hulky Australian actor. And Max Fairchild's character, is Gonzo, has a bit of complexity about him. But here's one of the provisos I have with the movie, if you're going to watch it. Max Fairchild doesn't have the chops and the gravitas to convey the character well. The character on paper is written really well, but the line delivery that Max Fairchild gives the character adds nothing to it. It's just purely a flat line delivery. And that's kind of disappointing. I think had they got another big Australian actor, I mean, later on, maybe if they had made this a decade later, they would have got somebody like Ian Roberts, an ex-rugby league player, who would have given it a lot more oomph. Ian Roberts was also the first rugby league player to come out as gay, and he's now on a number of committees supporting gay and rainbow rights. But had it been made 10 years later, Ian Roberts would have been the perfect person to do the character of Gonzo. But Max Fairchild, unfortunately, is a bit disappointing in this, which is one of the problems I have with the movie. Now, we get a character arc and we get a redemption arc for Salo in a way, and we also get a kind of interesting ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but the ending has some implications for Salo's future, which are kind of interesting, and there are some implications for the future of Gar and the future of Kidda, which are interesting but tragic as well. But you can figure that out for yourself. The other problem I've got with the movie, and I don't like shitting on movies that are trying to do things and do a lot of things well, but fall apart in certain aspects. The action scenes are not shot very well. Now, there's a thing that you do in action scenes to make them really crisp. The Hong Kong cinema has known this since the 1950s. You'd always do wide shots on the big action scenes. You don't do medium shots and you do the wide shots with a few close-ups involved, but medium shots don't often work in those movies. And this movie, in the action scenes, has a lot of medium shots. So they're kind of, I'll give you an example. Wide shot, as much as I can get it wide. Close-up, medium shot's about here. And if you're doing a lot of action scene with full body, a medium shot shows you part of it, but doesn't show you the whole thing. And yeah, the stunt work's good, and there's a whole bunch of really good production design in this movie. Each different village that the team goes to has a different feel about it, and have different things they have plenty of and different things they have very little of. One of the villages has a lot of shellfish, for instance, because they go to the sea to get their food. And another one has lots of reeds because they live in an area where there are coastal reeds. And another one has a lot more metal. So there's a whole bunch of really interesting world building in here. But those action scenes are really let down by the fact that they're full of medium shots. And I find that quite disappointing. It was a common thing to do in American movies, and ultimately this is an American movie, which just happened to be made in Australia. There's a lacking in the action sequences, and the action sequences and the stunt work on the action sequences isn't done with as powerful an impact as I'd like them to be. And yes, it is hard to do that. Partly the good way to do it is to have really good stunt people, but also in the Foley work, have some crisp things. When somebody hits somebody with a great big pole, you need to have some kind of sound design that gives the impact of that. And I don't know whether it was a budgetary thing or not, but this movie kind of lacks those things that would have made it work really well. If they had got a second unit guy from Hong Kong to come in and do the action sequences, this movie would have been a legend. It's a cult movie as it is, and it's got a lot of fans, but it would have been legendary had the action sequences been a lot more crisp than they are. You know, it's a pity, because I watched this movie this time with goodwill. I'm not the kind of guy who's a sports ball fan in any way, and there are very few sports movies that I like a lot. Travis Johnson, in the booklet attached to this collector's edition in here, has a really good look at this movie being a very good science fiction sports movie. And I think it does. I think it has a lot of parallels with the problems with contact sports as we know them to be in the modern era. Things like chronic traumatic encephalopathy and the physical price that athletes have in contact sports that don't have the chains and the batons and the other really gruesome weapons that are part of Jugger. If you can get a copy of this edition, Travis's article is really, really good and is really on point about these things. And also it gives you a list of other sports ball-related science fiction films like Rollerball and Death Race 2000 and Future Sports and things like that. But I like this movie. It looks good. I think that colour grading that was done by the cinematographer. Yeah, the cinematographer is David Egby. And that colour grading that was done under his supervision really works. The movie itself is a bit dark, but the colour grading and, of course, HDR and 4K, and even the Blu-ray copy I took a look at, work well because of that colour grading. I think that really snaps the movie into focus in a way that really didn't happen in the copy that I saw on VHS back in the day. A lot of people have said this is a Mad Max clone, though the writing of the movie and the script that David Peoples did for the movie was done well before Mad Max came out. And people get them and say it's a Mad Max exploitation film because it's filmed in Australia and it came out after Mad Max. I mean, it might have got financed after Mad Max, but the script was originally there. And the whole concept was originally there, and it predates it in a lot of ways. And you could realistically do a double feature with this and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, but I'm not convinced that there'd be anything useful in that. The movies have reached their own thing, and we've got to allow them to be their own thing, I think. So just to summarise on Jugger, it's a good film, and if you saw it in the past, you're going to like it again. I don't think it loses anything by being re-shown in 2025, or 2026 if you're watching this later, or 2027, 2028. But I think that it does have its limitations, and it does have aspects of it which let it down a little bit. Now, a couple of the actors in there, Hugh Keays-Byrne's not on his A game in this one, and Max Fairchild as Gonzo doesn't give the movie what it needs. And that action cinematography and the way the action scenes are blocked also lets it down somewhat. People who like it are going to like it. People who remember it are going to like it. And I think it will also gain a whole bunch of new fans with this release. So that then takes us to the vulgar pleasure. And the pleasure in this one is pretty vulgar. And that, of course, is Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, which combines magic, titillation, and bowling. There's the demon on the back, Uncle Impy, which is done with a puppet. This is a low-budget movie made by Charles Band's Full Moon Entertainment. Full Moon Entertainment did a whole bunch of films. So they actually made a sequel to this in 2020, which is directed by the three main stars, Linnea Quigley, Brinks Stevens, and Michelle Bauer. I haven't seen the sequel yet, but I'm looking forward to it because it looks like it's a bit of fun. But the original is, in this case, the best. Okay, the story of Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama, which, by the way, is a good title. It may be one of the reasons why this is one of the cult movies that was successful from Charles Band's Full Moon Entertainment. This is one of the ones that's kind of up there in the listings. Two sorority pledges called Lisa and Taffy, played by Michelle Bauer and Brinks Stevens, want to become members of sorority, and there's a sorority hazing ritual they've got to go through. One of a part of which involves being paddled by Babs, who is in charge of the sorority, and a couple of her friends, while Lisa and Taffy are wearing bikini underwear and crop tops. There is a lot of the male gaze in this, but on the other hand, it was 1988. The sorority sisters then squirt them with spray cream, dessert cream stuff, and they have to have a shower. So you get a mandatory nude shower scene, which again is kind of de rigueur for this kind of a movie. Meanwhile, there are three college guys who have been perving on this ritual from outside and inside the sorority house. They get caught, and Babs makes the five of them, the three sorority guys, Taffy and Lisa, complete the next stage of the ritual, which means that they've got to go into a bowling alley in a shopping centre and steal a bowling trophy and bring it back to the sorority to complete the sorority hazing ritual, which enables Lisa and Taffy to become members of the sorority. It's a whole weird American thing. So they go into the shopping centre where the bowling trophy is, and the three guys are hopeless. There's a fat bro, there's a shy guy who has one beer and then gets drunk and throws up a lot, and there's another nerdy guy as well. So them, along with the two pledges, go into this bowling alley and grab a trophy, but they're startled because Babs and her friends are up in the control booth where the CCTV cameras are, because Babs' father owns the shopping centre. The bowling trophy gets knocked over and it opens up, and there's an imp in it, Uncle Impy, which is a puppet, which is a kind of cool puppet, and the voice on it is very Levi Stubbs in Little Shop of Horrors, but it's kind of cool. It works because this is a low-budget, trashy movie, and you just accept that the imp's going to be a puppet. They didn't have Jim Henson money to make the imp with. The imp offers everybody a wish. Three of them accept the wish, and of course, this being a monkey paw kind of situation, the wishes turn on them. One guy wants to get horizontal with Lisa, and so Lisa turns into a hot and very focused lady. There's a lot more of Michelle Bauer shown in this part of the movie than there is previously. Taffy wants to be the prom queen, so she gets a beautiful prom dress, which turns into rags after a while. And the big fat frat boy wants gold, but it turns out that it's actually not gold bricks, it's wooden bricks painted gold. There's also a hearing impaired janitor in the bowling alley, played by George Buckflower, who gets some good lines and good little bits of business in there. There's some interaction between him and the kids, which is kind of fun. Doesn't end well for him, but Uncle Impy is an evil imp, of course. And so he turns the three sorority sisters who are up in the CCTV control room into demons and has them chase the other kids around and kill them. He's electrified the exit so nobody can get out. And so these sorority kids have to either destroy the demons, destroy the imp, or imprison the imp, or die. And some of them die, some of them don't. Meanwhile, in the bowling alley, there's another person. There's a punk chick called Spider, played by Linnea Quigley, who's there to rob the cash registers and rob all of the coin slots in the pinball machines. And Linnea Quigley's fun in this movie. She's sarcastic as hell. She's punk as hell. She's tough as guts and doesn't take shit from anybody. And so she balances out each of the three lead female characters, Linnea Quigley, Michelle Bauer, and Brink Stevens. Each bring their own personality and their own kinds of characters to this. And it works well. The movie was made on a low budget down near San Diego in a shopping centre. The director, David Dakota, who's had a long list of movies he's been involved with, is now doing Lifetime movies for Hallmark. He was 24 years old when he made this movie. He was like Orson Welles making Citizen Kane age. And I think he does a really good job. The cinematography is good. The synthy score works well in that 1980s synthy score for a cheap horror movie way. The humour's there. The movie's well directed. And all of the characters are exactly who you need them to be in this kind of a film. This is definitely a nostalgic fun fest. It's one of those 3 new releases for $5. Get yourself a 3-litre bottle of Coke and a whole bunch of popcorn and other things to eat. And just have a nice Saturday night at home because you can't be stuffed going out. It's that kind of 1980s movie. And I love the fact that they've been re-released by Umbrella in a format where you can watch a bunch of them. I mean, the Full Moon Fright Box has got Puppet Master, Seed People, Shadow Zone, and Sorority Babes in it. That's a good 2 nights sitting on the couch doing nothing kind of selection of movies. I mean, if you're of the age to have watched these in the 80s, you're going to love this. If you're not, but you're the kind of person who likes slightly risque, funny, dumb horror movies, you're going to like it as well. It is, for me, a vulgar pleasure. I don't believe in guilt when I'm watching movies, so it's a vulgar pleasure. And revisiting it last night was a lot of fun. I was there on the couch. I was being good. I only had water to drink. I wasn't drinking beer or anything sugary. But I had a good time with it and just enjoyed re-experiencing this movie. I just remembered I had a copy of this on VHS. And I have a copy of it on DVD. It's from an American source. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago I picked it up. But now I've got it on Blu-ray and I'm a happy little cinephile. So that's what I got for you this time around. A serious post-apocalyptic sports movie and a very unserious horror movie with demons and attractive women somewhat unclad and a bit of blood and guts and humour to go into it. Together, you can watch them back to back if you want to. And you get a very 1980s movie experience as a double feature. They're fun to rewatch. They were fun to rewatch. And salute to the Jugger. Yeah, I had those provisos about it because I think that with those tweaks, which might not have cost much more, the movie could have hit a little bit harder than it did. And Sorority Babes is perfect as it is. It's a perfect museum example of that 1980s horror comedy that people loved and remember with slightly guilty fondness. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. And you will get little extras, including my wonderful monthly Spotify music playlist where I have a lot of movie-related music that I send to people as a Spotify playlist who are channel members or patrons. So next up, we've got the Monday video, and I'm going to be reviewing The Naked Gun with Liam Neeson and a few other things as well. So until all of that happens, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Tell them Uncle Impy sent you, and I'll catch you next time.
is a shadow, smooth and deep. The city hums low, its secrets keep.